Okay.
Hey guys, what's up? MadSeason here, back with another episode
Is this the Grand
in the Hardest
Marshal
Grind
grind?
series. No, not that kind
Let's
of
see.
grinding. In the last episode, we went over the Insane title in its original form, pre-Cataclysm. A pretty extreme grind, but there are others that some would argue are just as tough, if not tougher.
It's not... Oh, sorry, I didn't mean to
No.
click ahead. It was not that hard.
Hey guys,
Like,
in the
Insane
last episode,
was not that hard. But I did do it after Shendalar got removed. Insane on day one was extremely difficult to do, though.
we went over the Insane title in its original form, pre-Cataclysm. A pretty extreme grind, but there are others that some would argue are just as tough, if not tougher.
Okay.
So, in no particular order, here's 5 more. First up, we have the Winter Saber Trainers, pre-Cataclysm.
Okay.
This is an Alliance-only faction,
this
which
is actually
in its
very
original state, if you grinded out reputation with them until you were exalted, you would
This
get
is
the
ridiculous.
Winter Spring Frost Saber mount. Since Cataclysm, you can just do a daily quest 20 times to obtain the mount, but
There was a Draenei on my server that had this mount before they made the change. It was absolutely disgusting.
before then, it was much more grindy. You of course started at neutral and had
65
just
rep
one
per turn
repeatable
in.
quest called the Frost Saber Provisions. For this one, you had to gather 5
50
each of
fucking
Shardtooth
rep.
meat obtained from killing bears in the area, and
That's
Chillwind
great.
meat obtained from chimeras. And these meats had a pretty low drop chance, around 10 to 20% I'd say. But completing this gave you 50 rep each, and the way the whole reputation worked was that you could unlock more repeatable quests the higher reputation levels you obtained.
Yep, I did this.
So, at 1500 points into neutral,
I didn't do it
you
pre-nerf,
unlocked
though.
another one called the Winterfall Intrusion, which
Yep.
required you to kill 5 each of Winterfall Shamans and Ursas in a Furbolg village to the south. Again, repeatable infinitely,
Easy.
and it gave you 50
Very easy.
reputation per turn in. The last unlock was at the
Yep.
Honored level, called Rampaging
I did
Giants.
this a lot.
This required you to kill 8 elite enemies at the other end of the
17
map.
million damage.
It did give an extra
Legion, by the
25
way.
reputation, but the difficulty of the enemies and the travel time made it too
This is
slow.
fucking hard to do.
As a result, people usually just stuck with the first 2, and the general strategy was to head to the Furbolg village, and on the way there and back, kill any bears and chimeras you saw to try to complete the meat quest, and just rinse and repeat that about 800 times until you were
Obviously.
exalted. Now, this did vary depending on
I did this back in the day. It was really fucking hard. It was extremely annoying, and it's the way it goes, obviously. But I remember whenever I was trying to be really efficient with this, I actually put my hearth in Everlook so I could save about 5 minutes every hour. That's how insane this grind was. It was fucking ridiculous.
how crowded things were.
You claim you did everything. Well, I mean, it's on my armory. It's not like it's a secret if I did this or not.
If the village was constantly camped, it was probably worth trying to kill those elites all the way on the other end of the map. Easier said than done though if you're talking current content.
It's not that
So,
hard.
that's a lot of grinding to say the least. Next, let's go over one that only takes 1 kill. It's our first non-reputation grind, and that's the time-lost proto-drake.
Yep.
That sounds pretty easy. Just
Easy.
1 kill. He spawns in the Storm Peak zone in Northrend, and he even drops
It's
a
easy.
mount at a 100%
Everybody
chance.
has this mount nowadays.
So, what the
Everybody
heck
has
is he doing
it.
on this list? Well, for a few reasons. One is, he doesn't spawn at any one location. There are a few different eligible...
Think about this. Greek got this mount. Like, you know what? Let me show you guys. Look at this right here. Time Lost Proto-Drake. 7 years ago. Greek God X.
Oh my god! I just got the time now! Yes! Woo! Oh my god! I just got the time lost proto-drake! Oh my
There it
god!
is, dude.
They call it time lost for a fucking reason, because I spent about a week! A week! Yeah!
Just imagine him doing like this.
Yes, yes. I come back from eating lunch. I was like, you know what? I'll have some lunch. I come back all I could hear was this, right? This is what I could hear, alright? This is my add-on. This is what it finds, right? Add-ons, NPC, I could hear this. And I was like, wow! Wow!
I had the same add-on. I literally had the exact same add-on.
That thing, and I shit myself! Okay, guys, I'm gonna make a Minecraft video pretty soon. Love you, bye.
Okay, there you go. That was a great video. So yeah, Greek God X, the WoW legend, he actually almost got the time lost proto-drake before me. Actually, he might have. He might have gotten the time lost proto-drake before I did. I really hope that's not the case. I've been farming it for 10 years, I still don't have it. Then you haven't been farming it for 10 years.
Spawn points. And he doesn't sit still. He patrols the area on a set flight path, and you have to keep an eye on about 50% of the zone. He also has a respawn timer that varies between 8ish to 20ish hours. It seems random.
Okay.
But he doesn't always spawn. He actually shares a spawn with another flying dragon called Viragosa, and no one cares about her really. It's also not a 50-50 chance. In fact, it seems like the proto-drake is almost a rare spawn of Viragosa, meaning that normally Viragosa spawns at these points, and the time lost has a small chance of spawning instead.
That's a very good.
And to top it all off, even to this day, nearly 9 years later, it's still heavily camped, and if you go to the Storm Peaks, you're pretty much guaranteed to have multiple people waiting at each spawn point. So, in essence, we have a rare spawn that rarely spawns every 8 to 20ish hours from another rare spawns at 4 different locations, who also patrols around 50% of the zone depending on where it spawned. And it's also heavily camped 9 years after the release of its expansion. There's a reason why it's called the Time Lost Proto-Drake. Alternatively though, you can just buy it off of the black market auction house, if it pops up there that is, and if you have a mountain of gold. Next.
That's a joke, okay? Like getting a time lost proto-drake. Here's what I would do to get the time lost proto-drake. I would literally just go AFK. Like that's the only thing. I went AFK for long enough and the mount eventually spawned. Like it wasn't really a grind. You just had to sit there for a long time. And our spawn time was nerfed. I don't even fucking know, because nowadays, if one person tags the time lost proto-drake and you're in a group of 5 people, all 5 people get the mount. You guys might not know that, but yeah. So you should farm the time lost proto-drake in groups of 5. That way everybody gets the mount.
We have some PvP reputations, and this is where people's experiences may have varied.
Oh, they changed it? Okay,
specifically, I wanted to talk about the Arathi Basin reputation, which is the League of Aerithor for Alliance and Defilers for Horde.
This was a joke,
and
dude.
the Warsong Gulch reputations, which were the Silver Ring Sentinels for the Alliance and Warsong Outriders for Horde.
At most
Again,
500
talking
hours.
pre-Cataclysm here, these took a very, very long time to grind. I think they still take a decent amount of time to get to Exalted, but before the release of Crossrealm Battlegrounds way back when, it was ridiculous. In my case specifically, I was on the Khadgar server on the Alliance side, and we vastly outnumbered the Horde in population.
Was not hard.
As a result, it wasn't uncommon for queue times to be hours long even during prime time, and to top it all off, we sucked. To get reputation with these factions, we had to cap flags in the Warsong Gulch, or get a certain amount of resources
Each flag cap was 35 rep, I believe.
And in the case of my server for the Alliance,
35.
It was nearly impossible. 2-hour-long queues, and a lot of the time, no reputation. The only thing that made it possible was that, back then, you could get these tokens for playing the Battleground. If you won, you got 3, and if you lost, you only got 1. And, correct me if I'm wrong here, but I believe you could turn in 3 at a time for a bit of honor and a small amount of reputation.
You got 100 reputation.
And in my case, that was the main way of grinding it out, since we very rarely won either Battleground.
The reason why it says 2.1 billion is that was the max integer number in WoW back then, and that was the case until I think Warlords of Draenor, and then that's whenever they were able to change it. And yeah, that's because the reason I know that is that's how like Raw Den like got bugged out, because his health went higher than that, and that's why all of the bosses before then, or sorry, after then in Siege of Orgrimmar, for some reason or another had under that number health.
These marks were removed a while ago in the Wrath of the Lich King expansion, I believe. So this was definitely a case-by-case basis. For my
easy.
situation specifically,
Easy.
if you were Horde on my server, you definitely had an easier time. Fast queue times and easy wins most of the time.
Easy.
Or if you just waited until post 1.12, which is when they released the Crossrealm Battlegrounds. Even still though, it was pretty insane. It's hard to say which one is harder. Overall, the Arathi Basin rep comes slower I think, but you got reputation per X amount of resources, so you were at least guaranteed some rep, unless you just got 5-capped right away.
I would say Warsong was the hardest.
There was always
in my
a possibility of 5-capping the other team.
Yep.
If you don't know, this makes the battleground go by at lightning speed, so it was very server dependent. For the Warsong Gulch, on the other hand, it was flag captures, so you could come out empty-handed.
Yep.
And to top it all
That's
off,
right.
initially there wasn't a time limit, so you could have games that would go on for hours. And
Those
each
were the
flag
good
cap
days.
was 35 reputation. For neutral to exalted, that's 1200 flag captures, or
That's a lot of
400
caps.
wins. So, even with fast queue times and easy wins, that's a headache right there.
Well, you would turn into
A lot of
tokens too,
people
which
ask
gave you a
why
lot.
I have such a
So
random
you got to
looking
keep that in mind
transmog,
as well.
and in the case of the tabard, it's sort of a memento of one of the hardest grinds I ever did in the game.
Yep, I
It's
have
the
it.
Silverwing Sentinel
not a
tabard,
big deal.
which required Exalted with the Silverwing
It's a
Sentinels.
joke.
Yeah, I probably played a little too much back then.
No.
In the case of
Come
Warsong
on.
Gulch, things have been made a bit easier over the years. You now get more reputation with flag
100
caps,
rep per
and
cap?
the new Warsong Scramble Brawl I heard
God, this
is a
game's
really
a
fast way
joke.
to max it out quickly. Anyways, who could forget the granddaddy of all PvP grinds, the rank 14 grind? Before
Okay.
the Burning Crusade, the
Yeah,
whole PvP
this
system
is-
for World
okay.
of Warcraft was a little different.
This is really
To get
bad.
the best gear, you had to ascend a ladder of sorts. This ladder had 14 rungs, but to
Yep.
climb it, it would take months, and while doing so, members of your own faction on your server are trying to knock you off of it. So, there were 14 ranks listed here, and the higher rank you achieved, the better rewards you got, with the whole
Epic quality weapon and shield. Let's see, what? Holy shit. Wait, 9 got a battle standard? That sucks. Wow.
Holy Grail as a purple armor set, and even a weapon at
Yeah,
ranks
those are the
12
old-
through
the old
14.
forms.
Epics were much harder to come across back then,
That's true.
so this was actually a really big deal. And the weapons in particular were really good, even being superior to the Blackwing Lair gear, for the
Yep.
most part anyways. But to get them, you had to farm a virtual currency called honor points, something you're most likely familiar with by
Yep.
now.
We have
So
it now.
everyone wanted them, which was the
See, I'm
main
already
problem.
rank 3.
And that's because you not only competed against the enemy faction by killing them for honor, but also members of your own faction as well, because the only way to rank up
So
was
we
to
had to
get more
rank the
honor
ladder.
than them. How much did you have to grind? Well, it's a dynamic thing, and it depended on how much everyone else on your server
I
was
only got to like
grinding.
rank 7, I think.
So basically, 24/7. For the high ranks anyways, it was pretty trivial to get 10-ish by PvPing frequently, but not over the top. That's because for each rank, the top X percentage of players who PvP'd for that week would rank up, and this percentage got smaller and smaller the higher the rank,
Top 0.1%.
all the way down to 0.1%
So it's basically
for
rank 1
14.
gladiator.
I won't go into
So
the
it's rank
actual
1 no life.
calculations and equations
Same thing.
themselves since they're pretty intricate and complicated.
Holy shit.
Just believe me when I say that you really did need to go just about
fuck is
24/7,
this, dude?
and it was pretty common for people to account share to reach it. So,
I
you
didn't know anybody who didn't account share to get rank 14. There's this one guy, he was my guild master, and he got Grand Marshal on 2 characters. Yeah. He got Grand Marshal on 2 characters, and he had a brother who couldn't speak English. And he would just have the brother who couldn't speak English play the game for him. And he would play while he was at work, while he was even in meetings at work. He would have the brother play while he was driving home. And at some point, I think he was actually playing the game while he was driving home. I'm not sure really how that happened, but somehow that's what he said. So somebody told me. This guy would basically never go offline. Grand Marshal on 2 characters.
constantly wanted to be queued for
Dude, sounds like
battlegrounds,
me.
and while in queue, world PvP. And to make matters worse, there was something called dishonorable kills back then.
Oh,
You would
jeez.
get these
I
by
hated
killing
this.
low-level quest
This was
givers
the
and
fucking
vendors
worst,
of the
man.
enemy faction, and they would have a negative impact on your current honor
This
rank.
was so fucking bad.
They were very easy to kill by accident in the
Yep.
chaos of world PvP, and you had to be so careful or you'd lose a day of progress in one button. And even if a party member killed one, you too got credit for it. So if all of this wasn't ridiculous enough,
awful.
if you can actually
Like, let me tell you,
believe
this
it,
is fucking
initially
awful.
to
I
continue
hated
using
it.
these weapons and armor, you had to retain your rank. So even if you completed this insane grind, you were still competing with your server, and if you didn't PvP, you would D-rank, and thus be unable to use your weapons and armor.
Wait, what? Really? What, really? I don't remember that. I don't remember that at all, dude. Until they changed it. Oh, okay, well, whatever.
Luckily though, they came to their senses on that one, and
Yeah.
made it so you just needed to reach the rank to buy the gear,
That's good.
and from then on, if you D-ranked, you could still use it. Now, I know it's an
Grand
arguable
Marshal
thing,
Derp.
but personally, I think the rank 14 grind was the biggest grind to ever have existed in the game. Say what you want about the insane title and all of these rep grinds, at the end of the day, you can make progress with them. With this PvP
I'm res
system,
running
even
in.
if you grind your butt off all day,
Okay.
you could even lose
wanna
progress
come
if
out and
others
just,
just
like,
happen to play more than
Clear
you.
that last bit or whatever.
Yeah,
I PvP'd enough to
But
get
I was just
exalted with the
playing over
Warsong Gulch on my lopsided server, and still, the highest I got was rank 10, so that should tell you how bad the grind was. But that's about it for this one.
Tell me whenever
As
you're about to
always,
rest.
I hope you found the video interesting or entertaining.
Yeah, I mean,
like it
I'm
if you
waiting to
liked
res.
it, and I'll see you in the next one. Peace.
Okay.